The birth of a leader. Moses and God's plan to free the Israelites, the Exodus story. In the land of Egypt, under the rule of a harsh and oppressive Pharaoh, the Israelites endured unimaginable suffering. Their lives were shackled by slavery, forced into hard labor that seemed endless. Yet, against all odds, something miraculous was happening. The Israelites, God's chosen people, continued to multiply. The more Pharaoh tried to suppress them, the more they thrived. Dark skies over Egypt, workers toiling in the fields, Pharaoh overseeing the labor. Pharaoh, fearing their growing numbers, ordered the brutal execution of Hebrew male babies. The midwives were commanded to kill them at birth, but they refused. In a defiant act of resistance, the midwives lied to Pharaoh, claiming the Hebrew women gave birth too quickly for them to intervene. Midwives defying orders, refusing to follow Pharaoh's command. But Pharaoh's fury was uncontainable. He decreed that all Hebrew baby boys should be thrown into the Nile River. The terror that swept through the Israelites was unbearable, mothers weeping as their babies were torn from their arms, mothers holding babies tightly, looking terrified. One mother, a woman from the tribe of Levi, refused to give up on her child. For 3 months, she kept him hidden, but as the child grew, so did the risk. Desperate to save him, she placed her baby in a basket made of reeds and set him adrift on the Nile, praying for God's mercy. Mother placing the baby in the basket, tears in her eyes. As the baby floated down the river, his sister watched from the banks, following the basket's path. And it was then that divine intervention guided the baby to a place of unexpected salvation. Basket floating on the river, the sister watching from afar. The basket landed at the feet of Pharaoh's daughter, who was bathing in the river. When she discovered the child, she was shocked by his beauty. She knew at once that this was a Hebrew baby, but her heart was moved with compassion. She decided to adopt him as her own and named him Moses, meaning drawn out of the water. Cut to Pharaoh's daughter finding the baby, holding him with a sense of awe. Moses, saved from the river, would grow up in the Egyptian palace, surrounded by luxury and privilege, unaware of the destiny that awaited him. But his true mother, chosen by God, would still nurse him, raising him in secret, ensuring his heritage was not forgotten. Moses growing up in the palace, dressed in fine clothing. As Moses matured, he became more curious about the plight of the Hebrew people. One day, while visiting his brethren, he witnessed an Egyptian overseer beating a Hebrew slave. In a fit of anger, Moses struck down the Egyptian, inadvertently committing a crime that would change his life forever. Moses witnessing the beating, his expression turning from confusion to rage. Word of the incident spread quickly, and Pharaoh ordered that Moses be executed. Fearing for his life, Moses fled Egypt, seeking refuge in the land of Midian, where he would live in exile. Moses running from Egypt, the city burning in the background. In Midian, Moses encountered a group of young women whose water source was being blocked by some aggressive shepherds. With his heart still stirred by the injustices he had witnessed, Moses intervened and helped the women. Grateful for his kindness, their father invited Moses to stay with them and even offered him the hand of his daughter, Zipporah, in marriage. Moses helping the women, a sense of peace settling in. Moses settled into his new life, raising a family and living in peace. But the suffering of the Israelites under Pharaoh's rule continued, and their cries for deliverance reached the ears of God. The Israelites working in the fields, looking exhausted. One day, while tending to his flock on Mount Horeb, Moses saw something that would change the course of history forever. A bush was burning, but it was not consumed by the flames. Intrigued, he approached, and from the bush, a voice called to him. Moses standing before the burning bush, looking up in awe. God revealed himself to Moses, identifying himself as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He declared that he had heard the cries of his people and had chosen Moses to lead them out of Egypt. Moses, hesitant and unsure of his abilities, questioned God, but the Creator assured him that he would be with him every step of the way. Moses speaking with God, hesitant but listening intently. To prove his power, God performed a miracle. Moses' staff turned into a serpent, and when he grasped it, it returned to its original form. This sign, along with others, would be the proof the Israelites needed to believe that Moses was truly God's messenger. Moses performing the miracle with the staff, awe on his face. But Moses still doubted his ability to speak before the people, so God sent his brother Aaron to be his spokesperson. Together, they returned to Egypt, ready to confront Pharaoh and demand the release of God's people. Moses and Aaron walking towards Egypt determined. When Moses and Aaron stood before Pharaoh, they declared, "Let my people go." But Pharaoh, hardened by pride, refused. And so, the battle for the freedom of the Israelites would begin, with Moses at the forefront of God's plan. Little did Pharaoh know, a series of devastating plagues was about to descend upon Egypt. The 10 plagues that would forever change the fate of the Hebrew people. Moses and Pharaoh facing each other, tension in the air. In the coming days, Egypt would be shaken by the power of God, and Pharaoh's heart would be tested like never before. The Exodus story had just begun, and Moses was ready to lead the Israelites to freedom. Dramatic music fades out, text on screen. Stay tuned for the next chapter in the Exodus story. This is just the beginning. Join us next time as we dive into the incredible journey of Moses and the miraculous events that would change the world. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more epic stories from history.